Congratulations on your new Moxie XL. This is an exciting step in your quilting journey. Finishing quilts with this quiet, easy-to-handle machine will be so satisfying. You are going to be pleased as you learn and grow with your 18-inch Moxie XL. Now let's show you all of the features and more for your new Longarm machine. The Moxie XL comes with your choice of the Littlefoot frame or the loft frame. Behind me you will see the loft frame. For more information, visit your local retailer or handiquilter.com. And for installation instructions, visit the Built app. We got the styrofoam out of the box, and now let's see what we've got in here. So we're going to take this off. You'll see in here we've got our carriage, machine, accessory kits, handlebar, our bobbin winder. First thing that we're going to pull out is our carriage. This is what we're going to set the machine on. You'll notice at the back here we've got this extra encoder wheel. That is going to go at the back of the frame. So I'm going to set it onto the frame, making sure the wheels, all 4 of them, are right there so it runs smoothly. Next, I'm going to pull out the machine. And it's all wrapped up in plastic. Taking the machine, I'm going to lift it up onto my carriage. Making sure the wheels are aligned with the track of the carriage so it moves smoothly. Okay, you've also got your Moxie Accessory Kit that came with it. Inside has all sorts of fun things, so let's take a look and see what you get. The accessory box comes with your display, an adapter, spool pin, 2 thread masts, cables, and a locking power cord. A bobbin case, 5 bobbins, one of which is on the Bobbin Winder, 2 packages of needles size 18 and 16, a screwdriver, a combined 8mm, 10mm wrench, a needle threader, easy pen oiler, 3 hex wrenches, replacement O-ring, a lint brush, Moxie decals, a closed-toed foot and an open-toe foot, one of which is on your machine, a USB stick, and the quick reference card. Okay, we're getting really close to quilting. So let's take a look at the How to Quilt kit that came in your accessories box. Let's start pulling some stuff out. In the kit, you have an instruction sheet that gives you some different ideas of things that you can quilt. So that's a lot of fun to get you going. It also comes with a yard of grid fabric. And we're going to load that on the machine here in a minute so you can see what we can do. We have a booklet from Superior Threads, as well as a variety of thread that they are going to give you a sample of. So let's pull those threads out. So all sorts of fun threads, as well as a pre-wound bobbin that you can try. The other items that come in the kit is a package of Longarm quilting pins, and we'll use those to load our fabric, and a channel lock, and we'll use that in a moment as well. We are going to now attach our cables. First we're going to do our encoder cable, plugging it in here, and then the other end, and this is the shorter cable, we're going to plug in right here. Okay, then we're going to take the longer cable to the back of the machine for the other encoder. I'm going to plug it in here. Hear that nice click, and then down to our encoder wheel down here. Perfect. Now with this cable, we're going to attach our carriage encoder cable clip. It's this little black piece here. We're going to slide it around the cable, pop it into place, and then use the screw. We're going to attach it to the hole here at the back of the machine. Perfect. Okay, next we're going to attach our power cord. This is the locking power cord. We are going to just insert it to the back here. And then we recommend plugging it into a power source before you attempt to stitch. Okay, next we are going to attach our front handlebars. The first step is to take out the 2 screws on the front cover. So we're going to loosen those up using our hex wrench. Excellent. I'm going to lift that up and slide it out from the front, and then just set that aside to use in a moment. Next, we're going to bring in our front handlebars, placing them in position so that the buttons are facing up. And then we've got our 4 screws with washers, and we're going to attach those in. Okay, I'm just going to flip those out of my way so I can get the front 2 screws. And then again, using my hex wrench, I'm going to tighten those up. Okay, then we're going to use our cables and plug them in to the back here. So taking your left side and plugging it in, and the right side as well. Okay. Next step is to replace the cover, sliding the front part in and setting it down over top of your handlebars and tightening those back screws. We can also, at this point, attach our thread mast. We're going to put the washer down first on this one. Having it point forward so it's right above our next step, which is the spool pin. Okay, our next step is to attach the display. We've got our adapter, this little black piece already on there. We've got 3 holes here that will line up with the 3 holes on the display. So I'm going to set those on there. It comes with the screws. I'm just going to set those 3 screws in, and then using your hex wrench, we'll put those in. And the last step is going to be to attach the cable. So it comes with this cable, and it's going to be inserted right here. And your display is now installed. It's now time to thread our machine. Let's set our cone of thread on the spool pin, taking the thread up through the thread mast, and then we're going to bring it forward towards us to this 3-hole guide. We're going to take the thread from the back to the front, wrap it around, do the next hole, back to front, wrap it around, back to front. So it looks like a barber pole. Okay, next we're going to take the thread down through our first thread guide. Make sure you pop it in there. And then we're going to come down to our top tension assembly, flossing the thread in between the 2 tension discs. And you're going to want to make sure you pop it up in there really well. Okay. Next, we're going to grab onto our check spring or the take-up spring. So you can see how that moves once the thread's around it. Bring it down below our thread stirrup and then to our take-up lever. The take-up lever, we're going to thread back to front. Bring it down through the next thread guide. And then coming to the front of the machine, we're going to put it through our needle bar thread guide. And then through the needle. Make sure the thread doesn't twist around the needle and your threading is done. If you need a reminder, in your accessory kit you have the Moxie XL quick reference card, which shows you step by step how to thread your machine. Let's move on to our bobbin case. You'll notice inside the bobbin case that we have a backlash spring. which we recommend you leave in the bobbin at all times. Next, we are going to take our bobbin. It's forming the number 9, or upside down, it's a letter B. And you want to make sure that that tail's hanging down. Taking your bobbin case, we're going to insert the bobbin into the bobbin case. And then we're going to use that tail, and we're going to find the little slit on the bobbin case. Slip that bobbin thread up through that slit, and then underneath this tension spring. Okay. Next, we want to test the tension to make sure that it is good, because that is our foundation, and we want to have good bobbin tension anytime before we start stitching. So I'm going to take my tail and I'm going to lift up on the bobbin. And see how that bobbin case is standing up nice and firm? That is our goal. If it comes up off the hand, that tells me it's too tight, and I would make adjustments with the larger screw on the bobbin case. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if it's coming off my hand, it's too tight, so I'm going to loosen it. If when I pull on the bobbin thread it doesn't come up, it just kind of wobbles there a little bit, that tells me it's too loose, and I will want to tighten that screw. Now that we've set the tension on our bobbin, let's go ahead and go over to our bobbin hook area. Every time we change our bobbin, we're going to want to clean out in here. So using your lint brush, you can also use an aerosol can if you want. Get all the lint out of there. With all the lint cleaned out, we're going to now take our Easy Pen oiler, and we're going to place 1 drop of oil right here along the track. If you get too much oil, you can take a batting scrap and just wipe off any excess oil. Let's take our bobbin case now with the bobbin already inserted in it. Want to make sure the lever is horizontal and the opening is at the top. And we are going to place it into the bobbin hook area. Not using this lever, don't pull on the lever. And then you're going to listen for the click. Once it's clicked in place, you are ready. So let's change out our needle. Okay, to remove our old needle, we're going to loosen the thumb screw and drop the old needle down. Make sure you don't take the thumb screw all the way out. I'm going to set the old needle aside and get my new needle. With the new needle, since it is a round shank, I need to make sure I have the front of the needle, which has a long groove down it, all the way down. There we go. Can feel my thumbnail in there. Make sure that's at the front. Placing the needle down, and I'm going to pull, and then I'm going to put it into the needle bar. Tighten the thumb screw, just finger tightening. Then to make sure I do have it in straight, I'm again rubbing my fingernail, making sure that long groove is at the front and that little cutout scarf is at the back. I'm going to take my old needle and insert it in the eye of the new needle. Loosen that screw just a little bit, and I'm going to rotate it side to side until I'm sure that it's facing center. Again, tightening that screw, and then using my hex wrench, I'm going to tighten it even further to make sure it stays in place. Okay, your Moxie XL comes with the closed-toe foot, which is already on your machine. It also comes with the open-toe foot, and you can also use any of the Handi feet that you purchase. So let me show you how to change the feet real quick. The foot is attached to the bar with a screw over on the side. We're just going to loosen up that screw. And it needs to be loose enough that the foot can come down but not remove the screw. So take the old foot away. We're going to take the new foot, and I'm going to scoop it underneath the bar and pop it up, and then tighten it. And I do want to point out that this is a hopping foot, so you can lift that bar up and down if that makes it easier to get the foot on and off. Now that the machine is on the carriage and on the frame, we can attach the last 2 remaining poles to our loft frame. To do that, we are going to slide the idle pole through the throat of the machine, pushing down on the button, pop it through, and then do the same thing, sliding the other end into position. Next, we will bring our take-up pole up. For the take-up pole, we are going to do the end without the ratchet first. Slide it in, and then we're going to slide this end in as well. Okay, we're ready to start loading our fabric on our frame. I just want to reiterate that our frame here is the loft frame, and it is set up in high position. In your accessory box, there's this lovely form here that says loading your quilt, and it shows you the difference between loading in high position or loading in low position. You'll also notice on the chart that they have these little arrows on each of the poles that tells you which way the fabric needs to go. In your box, you also have those same stickers that you can add onto your pole to help you remember which way to load your fabric. If you have other questions about the Littlefoot frame or loading on the loft frame, make sure you visit your local retailer, handiquilter.com, or you can go to the YouTube channel for Handi Quilter. We're going to start our loading process with our first pole here using our backing fabric. Now, we've already got our leaders on the pole with the center of the leaders already marked on all 3 of those poles. Okay, so I'm going to take my backing fabric, folding it in half so I can find the center, and I usually just take my scissors and take a little snip out of there, and I'm going to do that on both ends. You want to make sure that your backing fabric is nice and square. Next, I'm going to throw my backing over the take-up pole at the back. And you'll notice that I have the right side of the fabric facing down. Okay. Now with the front pole, I'm finding the center that's marked on the leader and the center that I marked on the fabric and lining them up. The edge of the fabric and the edge of the leader are lined up with each other, no overlapping there. And I'm going to start pinning those from the center working out. I'm using our long arm pins and taking big bites. As I put the second one in, I'm going to make sure that the distance from the edge of the leader to the pin is about the same distance, and the distance between the pins is about a finger width. We'll just continue along. Okay, the last pin, you're always going to want to pin pointing towards the center, and we're going to do a little weaving in and out. Okay, so we're going to straighten out this backing fabric, putting a little tension on it. We're going to put the ratchet stop down, and then the pole will only turn one direction, so you know you are moving the pole in the correct direction. And we're just going to roll this fabric up. You can smooth the fabric out as needed. Continuing to roll. We're going to roll it all the way up. Step 2 of our loading is the top fabric. Now remember, in your How to Quilt kit, you received 1 yard of the Handi Quilter grid fabric, and that's what we're going to use today. So we're going to open that fabric up, and we want to fold it in half to find our center point, just like we did with our backing fabric. Now if you're using a real quilt top, you might want to take a pin to mark that center rather than snipping off. For ease today, I'm going to go ahead and just snip that. And I'm going to do it on both sides. Same as the backing fabric again. Okay. Throwing the fabric over the back. We're going to make sure that the right side of the fabric is facing up for this one. And I'm going to lift up my ratchet stop on the second pole, and I'm going to pull it out just a little bit so I have a nice sturdy surface to work on here. Find the center of my fabric, line it up with the center of my leader, smoothing my fabric out. Make sure that the edge of the fabric and the edge of the leader line up flush. Now let's go ahead and start pinning. Again, starting at the center, big bites with the pin, and moving out to the edges. Okay, my pinning is done. I'm going to just put a little tension on there, putting my ratchet stop down, and then I'm going to roll all of the top fabric up. Again, smoothing out as needed. We generally recommend that this would be a one-person job, since people tend to smooth things a little bit differently. We want it to stay consistent throughout. Okay. Step number 3, we are going to move to the take-up pole, and we're going to pin our backing fabric to the take-up pole. So I'm going to release the ratchet on the backing and give it a little bit of slack here. Now you remember earlier we marked the center already. We've got the center of our take-up leader already marked. So I'm going to bring those together. And once again, pinning. Okay, I've got it all pinned, but I do want to point out a couple key points here. The backing fabric needs to be down underneath the second pole. So it's going to come underneath and up. The take-up leader needs to be underneath the idle pole. Okay? If you happen to forget and it doesn't get put on the right way, all of the leaders are Velcro, so you can easily just take the Velcro off, reposition it, and put it back on. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to tighten this up just a little bit. I'm going to leave a little bit of slack still. Okay, we have done pole number 1, pole number 2, and pole number 3. Our next step is to put our batting in. So we're going to open up our batting. And there's a couple different ways that you can do it with the loft frame. You can also purchase the additional accessory, the pole cradles, which you can see here. And these can be added on so you can take your poles out to lift them up, which gives you a little bit more space in between to put the batting. So I'm going to just lay my batting over the top here, and then I'm going to roll it in between the two poles. Okay. It's important that you don't cover up your pins because you don't want to accidentally stitch over those pins with your brand new machine. Okay, we've got our batting in and everything. We're going to now tighten up our backing fabric. And we also want to attach our side clamps. So each side of the machine has one clamp. It has a little knob here that you can adjust. We're going to attach it to the backing. And then without pulling on the fabric, we're just going to tighten it up slightly. We'll do that on both sides. Okay, attaching on the second clamp, tightening it up, and adjusting. So the machine has been plugged into a power source. I do want to mention that it's a good idea to use a surge protector, but you also want to make sure that it is completely unplugged from a power source when you are not using it so that you don't void the warranty if there's an electrical surge. Okay, with it plugged in, I can now use the on-off switch to power it on. So I'm just going to toggle it, and now the machine is on. Okay, your Moxie XL comes with a 4.3-inch color touch screen. On the home screen, you will notice that we have these symbols here. C is our cruise mode, P is precision mode, and M is manual mode. And we will talk about those in a little bit more detail in a moment. Over here, we have our needle up and down. That means whichever button is turquoise, when I stop the machine, that's the position the needle will stop in. Over here, we've got our little hamburger icon. We're going to tap on there. And from there, we go to our lights, and we can adjust the lighting. We've got lights in the needle ring, as well as a light pointing back towards our throat space. Let's go ahead and head back to our previous screen. This next button that looks like the little needle, that is your stitch count. The first number is your stitch count for your project, which you can reset. And the second number is your lifetime stitch count. Next, we have our alarms button. This is our overspeed alarm, telling us if we're going too fast for the stitch regulation to keep up. And you can turn that on or off. So this is the information button. It allows you to see what software version you are running on your machine. This is your diagnostics tool. You won't need to use this, but your service technician might need to at some point. Okay, this last button is your updates, and you can run updates through your USB port here, and updates will be located at handiquilter.com if you ever need to run those. Let's talk about the different stitch modes. M is manual mode. That means that you are controlling the stitch length by how fast you move the machine. The needle is going to cycle at a consistent speed, and you can adjust that speed here with the plus and minus button. You'll also notice that there are two preset options there that you can pick your favorite speeds and program the machine to remember those for you. Next, we have precision mode. This mode is stitch regulated. You'll notice it's set at 11 stitches per inch right now. You can adjust that stitch length using your plus or minus, and the machine will only stitch as you're moving that machine that amount of space. Next, we have our cruise mode. Cruise mode is kind of a combination of the previous two. It does have the stitch regulation with the stitch length right here, but you can also control the speed, so the needle will continue to cycle if you're not moving the machine, and so you get some nice sharp points. In the cruise setting, as you adjust the speed, you can go between 50 and 900 stitches per minute, and adjusting the stitch length, you can go between 4 and 18 stitches per inch. We're ready to start quilting. Let me show you how the buttons on your handlebars work. Okay, this first button here on the left is your needle up down button. Push it one time, the needle goes down. Push it one more time, the needle comes up. Over here on the right hand side is your play pause button. Press that one time, the machine will start stitching. Press it one more time when you're done stitching. The plus and minus buttons adjust your stitch length or your speed if you're in manual. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is bring up our bobbin thread. With the machine in position, I'm going to hold on to my top thread. Using my handlebar button, I'm going to needle down, needle up, move the machine away, and pulling that top thread, you can see I've hooked it onto the bobbin, and now I've got two threads, the bobbin thread and the top thread. Bring that back into position, and holding down my needle up, needle down button, I can do a couple little walking stitches if I want, and that can tie that in place. Now I'm going to stitch a straight horizontal line all the way across so that I have a straight line to begin with. To do that, we're going to use our channel lock. This is included in your kit, and it's going to be placed on our wheels to lock the machine so it will only go one direction or the other. When using the channel lock, you can lock the wheels on the machine, and that will allow the machine to move left to right, but it won't go forward and back. Or you can put it on the wheels that are on the track, or on the carriage that go on the track, and that will prevent the wheels from going left to right, and you can move front to back. I'm going to take the channel lock and put it over top of the wheel, making sure that it's in contact with the track of the carriage, and now the machine will not move front to back. It's locked in position there. And now I can move it side to side to do my straight line. Okay, the next thing I want to do is change my stitches per inch so that I'm down to more of a basting stitch or a really large stitch. So we can go down to 4 stitches per inch. I'm going to hold on to both of those threads, and with the channel lock in place, I'm going to push my start-stop button on the handlebar, on the right side handlebar, and start moving the machine across. At the end of stitching, you'll normally want to do a tie-off. So again, holding down that needle up, needle down button, do a couple stitches. And then we want to bring the bobbin thread up as well at the end. So I'm going to pull down on this thread, giving it a little bit of slack as I'm moving the machine at the same time. Loop that thread around my finger, bring the machine back into position, needle down, needle up, moving the machine about 4 or 5 inches away, and you can see how I caught that bobbin thread there. And then I'm going to take my scissors and just snip through all those layers right there at the fabric. Okay, Now I've got this nice straight line and I am ready to bring up my top fabric. So I'm going to release the ratchet if it's on the take-up pole, and then unfolding the fabric or unrolling the fabric, I'm going to bring it up to that nice straight line that I already stitched, lining everything up, keeping it nice and straight, matching my center points. If you want, you can even take a pin and put a couple pins in to keep it in place. And then I am ready to base the top to the batting and the backing. I'm going to do the same exact steps that I just did, but this time through 3 layers. So bringing up that bobbin thread, doing a couple stitches if you want. Sometimes when you're basting you don't need to. And then I'm going to hit my play button or my start button and start stitching a nice straight line. Okay, when I get to the end, I'm going to put my needle down and I'm going to tighten up my top fabric, making sure everything is nice and smooth. Make sure my side clamps are on. And I'm going to baste down the sides just in my throat space. At the bottom, I'm going to bring up my bobbin thread, giving it slack, needle down, needle up, pulling up that bobbin. And then using my scissors, I'm going to snip right down at the base of the fabric. I'm going to repeat the same steps on the opposite side. Okay, one tip with your basting, when you're doing this on a real quilt, it's very nice if you do it within a 1/4 inch or less of the edge of the fabric. That way when you put your binding on, it'll cover up that basting stitch and you don't have to take it out. Okay, I'm going to cut off at my extra threads and put them in the garbage so that they don't get twisted around my wheels. Now we're going to test and adjust our tension. If you remember back a little while earlier in the video, we already set the bobbin tension. So from this point forward, we're going to be doing all of our adjusting with our top tension. Okay, first thing that I'm going to do is adjust my stitches per inch back up to whatever number I'm going to be using. Generally about 10 to 12 stitches per inch is a good range. So let's adjust that back up. Okay, when I'm testing my tension, I am looking for the bobbin thread being pulled to the top or the top thread being pulled to the bottom. So to be able to see those clearly, my favorite thing to do are circles and stars. So bringing up the bobbin thread to begin, and you'll notice that I've changed to a bright pink bobbin thread just so you can see the difference. When doing real quilting, you want your bobbin thread to match the top thread in color. Okay? So hitting my play start button, I'm going to do a circle and a star. So if you look closely, you can see a little bit of the pink coming up in the circles, but you can really see it in the corners of the star here. That tells me that my top thread is being too tight. It's pulling that bobbin thread up to the top. So I need to loosen the top thread in order to let it relax a little bit more down into the quilt sandwich. To loosen the top tension, I'm going to use my black knob here on the side. To loosen, I'm going to lefty-loosey, rotating it around. If I had to tighten it, I would just do it the opposite direction. So doing another circle. Okay, so looking at it now, I don't see the pink quite as much. I still see it a little bit, so I'd probably loosen it a little bit more. And again, when my thread color on the bobbin and the top match, you won't notice that as much. But you'll always want to test and make sure that you don't have the bobbin coming to the top or the top going down underneath. So you'll have to check underneath your quilt as well. Now for further information on tension, please refer to any of our tension videos on the Handi Quilter channel at YouTube. Once you've got your tension adjusted and you're happy with that, it is now time to start playing. This is the best part. If you need different ideas of designs to stitch out, go ahead and go to your How to Quilt kit and pull out your instruction sheet, and there are different ideas on the front as well as the back. And once you have finished quilting in your available space, it's time to advance the fabric. To do that, you're going to want to remove your side clamps and make sure you do it on both sides. Then we're going to lift up the ratchet stops. And then holding those, we're now going to turn the take-up pull to advance the fabric. Okay, once the fabric is advanced, go ahead and put the ratchet stops back down. You're going to tighten the fabric back up. Put both of your side clamps back on. Make sure your fabric is nice and smooth. Baste down the sides on both sides, and then you are ready to stitch in the next throat space. Your Moxie XL comes with 5 bobbins. We use the M-class bobbin, which you can purchase from Handi Quilter if you need additional bobbins. You can also use pre-wounds. Your machine also came with the Bobbin Winder, so let me show you how you can create your own bobbins using this Bobbin Winder. Okay, first thing that we need to do is attach our thread mast into this hole here. And the thread mast came in your accessory box. We want to make sure that the top of the thread mast is directly over where your spool of thread will be placed. Okay, finding the end of your thread, we're going to bring it up through the thread mast. And then we've got a little notch right here that we're going to thread the thread through. And then we're going to put it in between these 2 tension discs. So make sure it's flossed in there really well. Next step is to take your new bobbin, and it has a slit in it. So we're going to thread that thread right through the slit, attach it onto the post. Still holding the thread, I'm going to hit my start button, and it's going to start winding a bobbin. Okay, you'll notice that it automatically stopped when the sensors registered that it was full. Just going to move this out of the way so we can see a little better. If I feel like my bobbin needs more or less thread on it, we're going to pop that off. There's a screw right here that you can loosen and adjust this piece forward or backwards to determine how full the bobbin will be. Your Moxie XL can use many of the Handi Quilter accessories, including the quilt from the back kit to do pantographs and groovy boards. You can also use the horizontal spool pin, as well as all of the Handi feet. You also might be interested in using rulers and doing ruler work. You'll need to have a ruler base to do that, and let me show you real quick how to install the ruler base. You've got 2 holes on either side of the machine. Your ruler base comes with these little pegs that you're going to attach onto your machine. Now that we've got all 4 of the pegs installed, you can take your ruler base, slide it over the top so that the grooves match up with the pegs, and then push it into position. Now that you're up and running with your new Moxie XL, there's a couple things I want to remind you about. First of all, you'll want to make sure that you take your machine in to have it serviced every 2 years or 10 million stitches with your local retailer. Make sure that you also do your warranty registration at handiquilter.com. And for more tips and techniques for your quilting experience, go to the Handi Quilter YouTube channel and enjoy your new Moxie XL.